Good evening, weary traveler, and welcome once more to a tranquil journey through the quiet, vast, and profoundly disciplined corridors of human history, as the day's last golden light softly, slowly, and peacefully fades away, retreating beyond the distant horizon, and the modern world outside your window begins its gentle, nightly hush. We extend to you a warm invitation. We encourage you to settle deeply, very deeply, into your most comfortable and secure space. Allow your thoughts to gently and serenely unwind, slowly untangling themselves from the day's persistent concerns. Prepare your mind, calmly and patiently, for a truly immersive, yet profoundly tranquil voyage into a time long past. To a world where freedom was often indistinguishable from confinement, and life, even for its most daring adventurers, was dictated by an intricate, unyielding set of routines and silent expectations. Tonight, we will venture far beyond the hurried, often fragmented rhythm of our contemporary existence. We will turn our gaze, with deliberate intention, towards a pivotal, iconic, and often romanticized figure in maritime history. The pirate. Specifically, our focus will be on what a pirate's life was actually like beyond treasure, providing a deep, meticulous dive into the everyday existence of these legendary figures. This is a narrative that seeks to transcend the grand tales of dramatic sea battles, of buried gold, and of swashbuckling adventures. Instead, we will delve into the harsh, often unyielding yet deeply repetitive and surprisingly uniform routines that governed the lives of countless individuals who chose or were forced to sail under the black flag, bound by the relentless, predictable yet powerful demands of shipboard life, naval discipline, and the constant subtle pursuit of survival on the open, vast, and indifferent ocean. Imagine, for a long, quiet, contemplative moment, a life dictated not by chaotic ambition for immediate glory, but by the relentless, unceasing demands of a confined space, by an almost obsessive pursuit of ship maintenance and survival at sea, and by the constant, gentle flow of wind and waves. A world where the dawn brought not the promise of wild adventure every day, but the absolute certainty of endless familiar tasks, where every precious hour, every single minute was consumed by a single, often physically exhausting, repetitive routine performed upon the creaking wooden decks of a ship or high amidst its swaying rigging under the ever-present watchful gaze of the boundless sky and the vast, immense, indifferent ocean. This was a life of quiet, profound endurance, of deep physical engagement with a highly confined yet deeply expansive environment, and of an almost hypnotic monotony that, paradoxically, can now serve to lull the modern mind into a state of deep calm. A gentle invitation to surrender to a simpler, more arduous, and certainly more profound rhythm of existence. We will explore the subtle sounds of rhythmic deck scrubbing, the gentle creak of ship timbers, the pervasive scent of salt and damp wood, and the endless precise movements of human hands, synchronized with the demanding ancient rhythms of sailing and shipboard maintenance. This is a story not of heroic battles or dramatic treasure hunts, but of the silent, persistent grind of daily existence, of the human spirit's quiet resilience in the face of overwhelming natural forces, unpredictable storms, and profound isolation. It is a narrative woven from countless threads of physical effort, of ceaseless, repetitive motions, and of the subtle yet ever-present challenges of basic survival, of maintaining a fragile vessel, and of finding personal meaning in a world where individual desire was often secondary to ship's law and the stability of the crew. It is designed to be a gentle lullaby, an invitation for your own mind to find its perfect stillness, allowing the rhythmic, unceasing sounds and detailed sensations of a bygone era to guide you towards a truly restorative rest. So now, as you listen, breathe deeply, very deeply, letting your chest gently rise and fall with each breath. Feel the comforting, soft weight of your blanket surrounding you, wrapping you in a cocoon of warmth and security. Feel the gentle, steady rhythm of your own breath, a quiet anchor in the present moment. And finally, allow your mind to simply drift, to slowly, peacefully, begin its imagined journey into this confined, ancient, and profoundly tranquil historical landscape. Let the whispers of tireless diligence and the imagined echoes of silent, vast oceans guide your thoughts serenely and without haste towards a state of profound stillness, ultimate peace, and a truly restful, dream-filled sleep. Having gently embarked upon our tranquil journey into the heart of maritime history, allowing our modern minds to slowly drift towards vast open expanses of the ocean, let us now fully immerse ourselves in the lived experience of an iconic yet often misunderstood figure, the pirate. We are about to step into a world that, despite its outward appearance of wild freedom and daring adventure, was often profoundly, even uncomfortably, defined by rigid routines, constant expectations, and a pervasive sense of elegant confinement within the wooden walls of a sailing ship. Imagine for a quiet, contemplative moment awakening within the cramped yet often vibrant confines of a pirate vessel, a floating community designed to house dozens, sometimes hundreds of hardened men and women dedicated entirely to the rules of the sea and the pursuit of plunder. This is a place where every waking moment was governed by intricate rituals, where personal desire was secondary to ship's law, and where the very rhythm of life was dictated by the unceasing pursuit of survival and subtle influence on the vast indifferent ocean. Imagine yourself stirring, not with a sudden jolt, but with a slow, gradual recognition of your confined surroundings. Your sleeping space is often a simple hammock woven from coarse canvas or rope, slung low beneath the creaking wooden beams of the ship's lower deck, swaying gently with the rhythmic roll of the vessel. The air, even in the stillness before dawn, is not fresh and crisp. Instead, it carries a complex, persistent blend of lingering odors. The faint, earthy scent of damp wood, the subtle, acrid taints of stale sweat and unwashed bodies from countless crewmates, and perhaps the faint, pervasive smell of bilgewater, gunpowder, and salted meat, unavoidable in such close quarters. There are no expansive windows offering wide views of the outside world, but rather small, tightly sealed portholes or the dim, internal glow of a single lantern that diffuses the light into a soft, ethereal gleam, keeping the chamber in a state of perpetual cool dimness. Your canvas hammock, though rough, offers a familiar comfort, its gentle sway, a constant, subtle reminder of your humble station. You rise slowly, stiffly, your muscles perhaps aching from yesterday's relentless toil and the constant adjustments to the ship's motion. A low, constant thrum of fatigue already present deep within your limbs. The rough wooden deck beneath your bare feet is cool, smooth, its texture familiar against your soles, perhaps slightly damp. The awakening is not silent. Even before the sun has begun its slow ascent, the vast wooden structure of the ship around you begins to stir with a subtle, internal hum. From beyond your hammock, separated only by thin canvas or stacks of hammocks, you might hear the soft, rhythmic breathing of your sleeping crewmates, the almost imperceptible rustle of coarse blankets as someone shifts in their sleep, or the gentle creak of old timbers as the vessel itself subtly responds to the cooling morning air and the constant, gentle push of the ocean waves. From other, nearby hammocks, you might distinguish the muffled sounds of other sailors beginning their own quiet preparations, a low cough, a quiet murmur of voices, the soft splash of water from a distant bucket being moved. These sounds are not intrusive in an alarming way, but they are a constant, gentle reminder of the unbroken proximity of countless other individuals, of lives intimately intertwined within the rigid hierarchy and confined space of the ship. As the pre-dawn hours slowly progress, the internal sounds of the ship begin to mingle with the first distant whispers from the upper decks. The vast ocean, though somewhat isolated, never truly sleeps in complete silence. You might hear the distant, muffled clang of a bell, marking the change of watch, or the faint, rhythmic footsteps of the lookout moving slowly across the quarterdeck. The air, though still cool, now carries the faint, sharp scent of salt spray, of damp ropes, and of the ever-present raw, briny aroma of the open sea. You would rise slowly, carefully, your body feeling the familiar sway of the ship, your mind calm, and begin the quick, efficient process of preparing for the day. A ritual of basic grooming and dressing often performed in shared dim spaces. The process of personal grooming for a pirate was a brief, functional, and deeply pragmatic affair, far removed from any luxury. There is no running water or private facilities. Instead, you might fetch a small wooden bucket of cold, briny seawater from the deck. Imagine splashing the cool, salty water onto your face, feeling its sharp, bracing shock awaken your skin. A fleeting moment of raw freshness, quickly absorbed by the dry, salty air. Your hair, often long and unkempt, might be quickly smoothed with your fingers, perhaps still matted from sleep. Shaving was a rare luxury, often done only when approaching port, hence the prevalence of beards. Your clothing is simple, unadorned, reflecting your status as a working sailor. Sturdy canvas trousers, a rough linen or cotton shirt, perhaps a simple woolen waistcoat. These garments are chosen primarily for their durability against the harsh elements of sea and sun, their ease of quick drying, and their practicality for endless labor, rather than for any comfort or appearance. Its fabric feels coarse, almost stiff with dried salt, against your skin, a familiar, unchanging sensation that defines your daily attire, and often carries the faint, ingrained scent of salt, sweat, tar, and persistent body odor from days of wear without proper washing. The air in the cramped sleeping quarters is still heavy, filled with the quiet, anticipatory hum of the impending workday. There is little time for idle conversation. The profound silence of the pre-dawn ship is broken only by your own soft breathing, and the subtle rustle of worn clothing as you prepare to face the monumental tasks ahead. Breakfast, a crucial source of raw energy for the grueling hours ahead, is meager and quickly consumed by all crew members, often huddled together on the lower deck or around a small communal cooking fire if weather permitted. It consists primarily of basic nourishing staples, reflecting the pragmatic bounty of a ship at sea. Perhaps a piece of hardtack, a thick, dry, unleavened biscuit. Its texture so hard it might break a modern tooth, softened with a few sips of weak, lukewarm grog, diluted rum, or stale, often brackish water. Or perhaps a bowl of thin, warm gruel made from boiled oats or cornmeal, tasting faintly of grain and salt. The aromas are simple, earthy, utilitarian, reflecting the direct, unadorned bounty of the immediate ship. This meal is not consumed for pleasure or social enjoyment, but purely for fundamental sustenance, providing the minimal, essential fuel necessary for your bodies to endure the long, demanding hours ahead. It is consumed swiftly, silently, almost mechanically, a direct reflection of the day's unyielding schedule. There is no lingering, no extended conversation. The focus is entirely on the quick intake of calories before the bosun's whistle signals. The start of the full morning watch and the countless shipboard chores call out for your labor. The morning relief of bodily functions, a universally necessary act, was handled on a pirate ship in ways that would deeply shock modern sensibilities, contributing massively to the pervasive squalor. There was no concept of an indoor, private latrine. Instead, sailors would often relieve themselves into communal buckets, or directly over the side of the ship, using specific areas like the head, the very front of the ship, near the bowsprit where holes were cut into the hull. Imagine the pungent, profoundly unpleasant odor that would perpetually hang in the air around these areas, especially on a warm, still morning. The subtle splash of human waste hitting the ocean, the rhythmic creak of the ship, these would be the sounds of this private yet public act. The sheer practicality of shipboard life dictated a certain, profound tolerance for such pervasive odors and unsanitary conditions. There was simply no widespread technology or understanding to manage waste in a truly hygienic manner. This routine, though natural, contributed massively to the pervasive, unwashed, and disease-ridden reality of life at sea, a continuous, inescapable part of daily life, profoundly challenging to any modern sense of personal space and cleanliness. The concept of bathing as a regular, personal cleansing ritual was almost entirely absent for the vast majority of pirates. Full body washing, particularly with fresh, warm water and soap, was a rare luxury, often limited to specific religious holidays if observed, or perhaps when in port. The primary method of cleaning was often just a quick splash of cold seawater, or a rub down with a damp cloth. For the pirate, even this was often a luxury of convenience. Imagine your skin, perpetually coated with a fine layer of salt spray, mixed with grime from ropes and decks, dried sweat, and the faint, persistent odor of your own body. Your hair, often long and matted, would rarely be washed, instead being occasionally brushed or braided. The feel of rough, unwashed skin, the subtle itch from accumulated salt and dirt, these were constant, familiar sensations. The idea of truly fresh or clean skin, as we understand it, would have been almost alien. This persistent state of unwashed existence was simply a fact of life, an accepted reality. The clothing worn by pirates further contributed to the pervasive, unhygienic conditions. Clothes were rarely washed, especially at sea. Fabrics like coarse, canvas, wool, and thick linen, though durable, were difficult to clean without fresh water and modern soaps, often shrinking or deteriorating when subjected to harsh washing. Imagine wearing the same thick woolen trousers and rough linen shirt for weeks, perhaps even months, at a time, without a thorough cleaning. The fabric would slowly accumulate layers of salt, dirt, sweat, and the various pervasive odors of shipboard, life tar, bilge water, human effluvia, and stale food. The texture of the cloth would become stiff, almost crusty, against your skin. The air around you, and around everyone else, would carry these complex, persistent aromas. Clothes were aired out, perhaps beaten against a railing to remove dust, or mended with meticulous stitches. But true washing was a rare and arduous event, limited by the scarcity of fresh water. This constant wearing of soiled garments was simply a necessary reality, a quiet acceptance of a different standard of personal cleanliness, a standard profoundly shaped by the scarcity of resources and understanding. The sleeping quarters, your most intimate living space on the ship, were also contributors to the general lack of hygiene. A typical pirate ship, even a captured merchant vessel, was crammed with dozens of men, all sharing limited space. Hammocks, slung close together, were the primary sleeping arrangements. Imagine the pervasive, earthy, and often pungent smell of unwashed bodies, stale sweat, and damp cloths that would permeate the air in the lower decks, mixing with the ever-present aroma of bilge water and stored provisions. The hammocks themselves, providing warmth and a degree of softness, would slowly accumulate dust, body oils, and harbor various small insects or vermin. They would rarely be changed or thoroughly cleaned, slowly accumulating refuse, food scraps, and insect life, contributing to the overall unsanitary conditions. The subtle rustle of unseen insects, perhaps fleas or lice, moving within the hammock or on your person, would be a constant, irritating sensation, an unavoidable part of pirate existence. The air quality, even on the open ocean, would be profoundly different from our own, particularly below deck. The lower decks, where most of the crew slept and ate, were often poorly ventilated, especially when hatches were battened down during storms. Imagine the thick, heavy, often putrid air, filled with the exhalations of countless bodies, the persistent smell of bilge water, and the subtle aroma of decaying food. This pervasive, stale atmosphere, while providing shelter, also contributed to numerous respiratory ailments and a general sense of malaise. A constant low-level discomfort that was simply a part of pirate indoor life, a chronic, unseen challenge to health and survival. The daily routine on a pirate ship was structured by watchers, ensuring that the ship operated continuously, day and night, regardless of weather or circumstances. Imagine being assigned to the forecastle watch, spending hours on the front of the ship. Your tasks would be endless, repetitive, and deeply physical. One of the most common and monotonous chores was swabbing the deck. Imagine grasping a large heavy mop, its coarse fibers soaked in salt water. With a slow rhythmic motion, you would push the mop across the rough wooden planks of the deck, feeling its weight, slowly scrubbing away the salt, grime, and any other refuse. The rhythmic slosh of the mop, the gentle scrape of its fibers on the wood, the pervasive smell of damp wood and salt, these were the constant sounds and sensations of a chore performed day after day for hours on end. This continuous, repetitive labor, under the vast, indifferent sky, was a testament to sheer physical endurance. Beyond swabbing, there were countless other maintenance tasks that filled the long, monotonous hours at sea. Imagine spending hours meticulously repairing frayed ropes, carefully splicing broken strands together, feeling the coarse, rough texture of the hemp against your calloused hands. Or perhaps you are tasked with cleaning the ship's cannons, carefully removing rust, polishing the metal, and ensuring they are ready for action. The sounds would be the soft creak of ropes, the gentle clink of metal tools, the rhythmic rub of sandpaper on wood. The pervasive smell of tar, of raw hemp, of gunpowder, and of damp wood filled the air. You might spend hours tarring and pitching, applying hot tar to the ship's rigging and hull, ensuring it remained waterproof. The sticky, pervasive smell of tar, the slow, repetitive brushing motions, the constant heat from the tar bucket. These were the sensations of a continuous battle against the corrosive power of the sea, a silent, monotonous testament to the relentless demands of ship maintenance. The acquisition of food and water, far from being a simple trip to the market, was a constant underlying anxiety. Water, fresh and potable, was a precious, finite resource, carefully rationed. Imagine the grim necessity of collecting rainwater in sails during a storm, a frantic, chaotic effort, followed by the slow, painstaking process of storing it in barrels below deck. Food was primarily preserved: hardtack, salted meat, often tough and worm-ridden, dried fish, and perhaps some cheese. Imagine the monotonous taste of your daily ration, consumed quickly and functionally, without any culinary delight. Fresh fruits and vegetables were a rare luxury, consumed quickly after reaching port, and their absence for long periods led to debilitating diseases like scurvy. The threat of illness from poor nutrition was a constant, silent companion, a subtle, pervasive weakness that affected every sailor. The pervasive silence of the open ocean, broken only by the sounds of the ship and the natural world, could be profoundly isolating. You might go for weeks, even months, without seeing any land or another ship. The sounds of the sea, the ceaseless whisper of the wind through the rigging, the rhythmic lapping of waves against the hull, The distant cries of seabirds become your constant companions, blending into a raw, natural symphony. This immense, unbroken silence can be both profoundly comforting, allowing for deep introspection, and at times, deeply unsettling, emphasizing your profound solitude and vulnerability in the vastness of nature. Your thoughts become your primary, indeed your only, companions, a constant internal monologue, as you observe the minute, almost imperceptible details of the passing sea, the subtle shifts in cloud formations, the endless expanse of the horizon, the slow flight of a distant albatross. This forced solitude, this immense quietude could lead to a deep meditative state, a profound connection with the self and the vastness around you, or it could amplify any underlying anxieties, emphasizing your complete reliance on your crewmates and the fragile vessel. As the sun began its slow, gradual descent towards the western horizon, painting the sky with fiery oranges, deep purples, and soft, fading blues, the air gradually, slowly, began to cool again, bringing with it the damp, pervasive chill of the ocean night. The shadows lengthened, stretching endlessly across the ship's deck, before finally, inevitably, merging into the complete, profound darkness of night. The pirate, weary from his day of relentless chores, disciplined watches, and constant vigilance, would slowly prepare for the evening. The sounds of the ship at night would be the soft, rhythmic breathing of sleeping crewmates, the gentle creak of ship timbers as the vessel responded to the cooling night air and the constant roll of the waves, and the distant muffled calls of the watchman or the cries of nocturnal seabirds, all blending into a soothing natural lullaby. This deep, shared sleep, born of an entire day of unyielding physical labor, constant acclimation to their unwashed reality, and profound emotional adaptation to isolation, prepared their bodies for the inevitable, relentless rhythm of the coming dawn, knowing that tomorrow, the sun would rise again, and the endless, silent, demanding routines of pirate life, with all its pungent realities and repetitive demands, would simply, quietly, continue guiding them, through sheer weariness, towards a deep, restorative sleep, a peaceful surrender to the ancient, eternal patterns of existence. Having deeply immersed ourselves in the stark, unyielding realities of a pirate's daily life, feeling the persistent grime on their skin, sensing the pervasive odors of salt and unwashed garments, and understanding the profound physical demands of their repetitive, yet essential, toil aboard a cramped, swaying vessel, let us now, slowly and with a profound shift in perspective, turn our gaze. We are about to step into a vastly different, yet equally disciplined and profoundly tranquil realm within the same ancient civilization. The unique and often brutal system of justice and governance that ruled the pirate ship itself, known as the Pirate Code. This is a narrative that seeks to transcend romanticized notions of lawless rogues, delving instead into the harsh, often unyielding, yet deeply repetitive and surprisingly uniform protocols that governed every aspect of a pirate's existence, from shared duties to stern punishments. It was a world where immense personal freedom intersected with profound collective discipline, creating unique and pervasive psychological challenges that would profoundly test the very sensibilities of a modern individual, even amidst such a life of daring and plunder. Imagine, for a long, quiet moment, a pirate ship sailing smoothly across the vast, indifferent ocean. The sun hangs high in the sky, its light glinting off the gentle ripples of the water. The sounds are rhythmic and predominantly natural. The ceaseless lapping of waves against the wooden hull, the gentle creak of ship timbers, as the vessel sways with the ocean's rhythm, the soft flap of sails in the steady breeze, and the distant cries of seabirds circling high above. In this seemingly idyllic setting, it is easy to forget that beneath the surface of the apparent freedom, a strict and often brutal system of law and order prevailed. This was not the law of kings or distant parliaments, it was the law of the sea, established and enforced by the pirates themselves, a self-governing system born of necessity and the unique demands of their dangerous profession. The very first, and perhaps most defining, aspect of pirate governance was the Articles of Agreement, often simply called the Pirate Code. This was a written document, meticulously drafted and agreed upon by the entire crew, usually before embarking on a new voyage. Imagine a group of hardened, sun-weathered pirates, gathered on the ship's main deck, their faces grim and serious, as a senior officer or the quartermaster slowly, deliberately, read aloud each article of the code. The sounds would be the soft murmur of the waves, the gentle creak of the ship, and the clear, resonant voice of the reader, explaining each rule. This code laid out everything from the distribution of plunder, the duties of each crew member, rules of conduct, and, crucially, the system of punishments for various offenses. Every man, upon joining the crew, would quietly and solemnly sign or make his mark on this document, signifying his absolute, unwavering agreement to abide by its rules. This was not forced compliance. It was a communal agreement, a social contract forged in the crucible of shared danger and mutual survival. The daily enforcement of the pirate code was often quiet, constant, and surprisingly democratic for its time. Decisions regarding daily duties, minor disputes, or even the pursuit of potential prizes were often made by a vote of the entire crew, rather than solely by the captain's will. Imagine a quiet gathering on the main deck, perhaps under the shade of a sail. The sounds would be the low murmur of voices, the gentle creak of the ship, and the soft, rhythmic splash of waves. Each man, in turn, would quietly cast his vote or state his opinion, his voice calm and measured. This democratic aspect, while giving every man a say, also meant that collective decisions, once made, carried immense weight and were adhered to with absolute discipline. This shared responsibility for governance fostered a unique sense of camaraderie and collective ownership, a quiet yet powerful bond among the crew. Punishments for transgressions of the pirate code were often severe, yet applied with a certain grim, formal quietude. There were no elaborate legal processes or lengthy trials as in land-based courts. Justice was swift, direct, and administered by the crew itself, often after a communal vote or a brief, summary hearing on the ship's deck. Imagine a pirate, accused of stealing from a shipmate, or of shirking his duties, being brought forward. The sounds would be minimal, the soft creak of the deck, the gentle lapping of waves, the hushed whispers of the crew. The accusation would be stated, the defense offered, and then, a quick, quiet vote would determine the verdict. This collective judgment, though swift, was considered fair, as it came from their peers. One of the most common, and profoundly monotonous punishments for minor offenses was flogging or whipping. Imagine the accused pirate, his back bared, tied securely to the mast or a sturdy railing on the ship's deck. The sounds would be the gentle creak of the ship, the soft flap of sails, and the rhythmic crack of the whip as it descended upon his flesh. The process was not rushed. It was administered with a deliberate, measured pace, each stroke a harsh reminder of the ship's law. The pain, though immense, was often endured in stoic silence, for a pirate's honor demanded a display of resilience. The air would be thick with the sharp, metallic temps of sweat and blood, mixing with the pervasive smell of salt. This repetitive, brutal, yet formally administered punishment was designed to instill discipline, to reinforce the code, and to remind every man of the harsh consequences of disobedience. The rhythmic sounds of the whip, the silent endurance of the recipient, all contributed to a grim, sobering atmosphere. For more severe offenses such as desertion, mutiny, or cowardice in battle, the punishment could be far more dire, often involving an agonizing, slow death. Administered with a terrifying quietude, one such punishment was marooning. Imagine a pirate, found guilty of a grave crime, being brought to the ship's longboat, its wooden hull scraping softly against the larger vessel. He would be given a single pistol, often with only one shot, and a small flask of water. Then, rowed slowly, deliberately, to a small, desolate, uninhabited island, its shores barren and rocky, its air filled only with the relentless whisper of the wind and the ceaseless crash of waves. He would be left there, utterly alone, with no hope of rescue. The sounds would be the gentle lapping of waves as the longboat slowly rowed away, diminishing into the vast silence of the ocean, leaving the marooned pirate to his fate. This was a silent, agonizing death by thirst, hunger, and despair, an insidious form of punishment designed to be a slow, torturous end, a chilling testament to the unforgiving nature of pirate justice. Having deeply immersed ourselves in the stark, unyielding realities of a pirate's daily life, feeling the persistent grime on their skin, sensing the pervasive odors of salt and unwashed garments, and understanding the profound physical demands of their repetitive, yet essential, toil aboard a cramped, swaying vessel, let us now, slowly and with a profound shift in perspective, turn our gaze. We are about to step into a vastly different, yet equally disciplined and profoundly tranquil realm within the same ancient civilization. The unique and often brutal system of justice and governance that ruled the pirate ship itself, known as the Pirate Code. This is a narrative that seeks to transcend romanticized notions of lawless rogues, delving instead into the harsh, often unyielding, yet deeply repetitive and surprisingly uniform protocols that governed every aspect of a pirate's existence, from shared duties to stern punishments. It was a world where immense personal freedom intersected with profound collective discipline, creating unique and pervasive psychological challenges that would profoundly test the very sensibilities of a modern individual, even amidst such a life of daring and plunder. Imagine, for a long, quiet moment, a pirate ship sailing smoothly across the vast, indifferent ocean. The sun hangs high in the sky, its light glinting off the gentle ripples of the water. The sounds are rhythmic and predominantly natural. The ceaseless lapping of waves against the wooden hull, the gentle creak of ship timbers as the vessel sways with the ocean's rhythm, the soft flap of sails in the steady breeze, and the distant cries of seabirds circling high above. In this seemingly idyllic setting, it is easy to forget that beneath the surface of the apparent freedom, a strict and often brutal system of law and order prevailed. This was not the law of kings or distant parliaments. It was the law of the sea, established and enforced by the pirates themselves, a self-governing system born of necessity and the unique demands of their dangerous profession. The very first, and perhaps most defining, aspect of pirate governance was the Articles of Agreement, often simply called the Pirate Code. This was a written document, meticulously drafted and agreed upon by the entire crew, usually before embarking on a new voyage. Imagine a group of hardened, sun-weathered pirates gathered on the ship's main deck, their faces grim and serious, as a senior officer or the quartermaster slowly, deliberately, read aloud each article of the code. The sounds would be the soft murmur of the waves, the gentle creak of the ship, and the clear, resonant voice of the reader, explaining each rule. This code laid out everything from the distribution of plunder, the duties of each crew member, rules of conduct, and, crucially, the system of punishments for various offenses. Every man, upon joining the crew, would quietly and solemnly sign or make his mark on this document, signifying his absolute, unwavering agreement to abide by its rules. This was not forced compliance. It was a communal agreement, a social contract forged in the crucible of shared danger and mutual survival. The daily enforcement of the Pirate Code was often quiet, constant, and surprisingly democratic for its time. Decisions regarding daily duties, minor disputes, or even the pursuit of potential prizes were often made by a vote of the entire crew, rather than solely by the captain's will. Imagine a quiet gathering on the main deck, perhaps under the shade of a sail. The sounds would be the low murmur of voices, the gentle creak of the ship, and the soft, rhythmic splash of waves. Each man, in turn, would quietly cast his vote or state his opinion, his voice calm and measured. This democratic aspect, while giving every man a say, also meant that collective decisions, once made, carried immense weight and were adhered to with absolute discipline. This shared responsibility for governance fostered a unique sense of camaraderie and collective ownership, a quiet yet powerful bond among the crew. Punishments for transgressions of the Pirate Code were often severe, yet applied with a certain grim, formal quietude. There were no elaborate legal processes or lengthy trials as in land-based courts. Justice was swift, direct, and administered by the crew itself, often after a communal vote or a brief, summary hearing on the ship's deck. Imagine a pirate, accused of stealing from a shipmate, or of shirking his duties, being brought forward. The sounds would be minimal, the soft creak of the deck, the gentle lapping of waves, the hushed whispers of the crew. The accusation would be stated, the defense offered, and then, a quick, quiet vote would determine the verdict. This collective judgment, though swift, was considered fair, as it came from their peers. One of the most common, and profoundly monotonous punishments for minor offenses was flogging or whipping. Imagine the accused pirate, his back bared, tied securely to the mast or a sturdy railing on the ship's deck. The sounds would be the gentle creak of the ship, the soft flap of sails, and the rhythmic crack of the whip as it descended upon his flesh. The process was not rushed. It was administered with a deliberate, measured pace, each stroke a harsh reminder of the ship's law. The pain, though immense, was often endured in stoic silence, for a pirate's honor demanded a display of resilience. The air would be thick with the sharp, metallic temps of sweat and blood, mixing with the pervasive smell of salt. This repetitive, brutal, yet formally administered punishment was designed to instill discipline, to reinforce the code, and to remind every man of the harsh consequences of disobedience. The rhythmic sounds of the whip, the silent endurance of the recipient, all contributed to a grim, sobering atmosphere. For more severe offenses such as desertion, mutiny, or cowardice in battle, the punishment could be far more dire, often involving an agonizing, slow death, administered with a terrifying quietude. One such punishment was marooning. Imagine a pirate, found guilty of a grave crime, being brought to the ship's longboat, its wooden hull scraping softly against the larger vessel. He would be given a single pistol, often with only one shot, and a small flask of water. Then, rowed slowly, deliberately, to a small, desolate, uninhabited island, its shores barren and rocky, its air filled only with the relentless whisper of the wind and the ceaseless crash of waves. He would be left there, utterly alone, with no hope of rescue. The sounds would be the gentle lapping of waves as the longboat slowly rowed away, diminishing into the vast silence of the ocean, leaving the marooned pirate to his fate. This was a silent, agonizing death by thirst, hunger, and despair, an insidious form of punishment designed to be a slow, torturous end, a chilling testament to the unforgiving nature of pirate justice. Having deeply immersed ourselves in the stark, unyielding realities of a pirate's daily life, feeling the persistent grime on their skin, sensing the pervasive odors of salt and unwashed garments, and understanding the profound physical demands of their repetitive, yet essential, toil aboard a cramped, swaying vessel, and having then contemplated the unique and often brutal system of justice that ruled the pirate ship itself, let us now, slowly and with a profound shift in perspective, turn our gaze. We are about to step into a vastly different, yet equally disciplined and profoundly tranquil realm within the same ancient civilization, the silent, meticulous world of navigation and exploration, a domain governed by the unchanging patterns of the stars, the subtle whispers of the wind, and the vast indifferent power of the open ocean. This is a narrative that seeks to transcend romanticized notions of spontaneous discovery, delving instead into the harsh, often unyielding, yet deeply repetitive and surprisingly uniform protocols that governed every aspect of a pirate's journey, from charting a course to the patient vigil for land. It was a world where immense precision intersected with profound, quiet observation, creating unique and pervasive psychological and intellectual challenges that would profoundly test the very sensibilities of a modern individual. Even amidst such a life of daring and plunder, imagine, for a long quiet moment, a pirate ship sailing smoothly across the vast, indifferent ocean under the immense star-studded canopy of the night sky. The moon, perhaps a thin crescent or a full, luminous orb, casts a soft, ethereal glow on the gently rippling waves. The sounds are predominantly natural, the ceaseless lapping of waves against the wooden hull, the gentle creak of ship timbers as the vessel sways with the ocean's rhythm, the soft flap of sails in the steady breeze, and the distant muffled cries of nocturnal seabirds circling high above. In this seemingly boundless setting, far from any land, the art of navigation was paramount, a precise and ancient science that demanded unwavering focus and immense patience. This was not merely about pointing the ship in a general direction. It was about meticulously plotting a course, understanding the subtle language of the sea, and consistently knowing one's position in an immense, featureless expanse. The primary tool for celestial navigation was the astrolabe, or, more commonly, the quadrant. Imagine the pirate navigator, often a skilled and educated individual, standing on the ship's quarterdeck during the quiet hours of the night watch. The air is cool, salty, carrying the scent of damp wood and distant sea. The sounds are minimal, the gentle creak of the ship, the soft murmur of the waves, and the rhythmic steady breathing of the navigator. He holds a heavy brass quadrant, its surface cool and smooth against his hands. With a slow, deliberate motion, he would raise the instrument to his eye, aligning its sights with the distant, unchanging North Star, Polaris, or with the moon. The process was one of profound stillness and intense concentration. He would carefully observe the angle of the star above the horizon, reading the subtle markings on the instrument's arc. The rhythmic sway of the ship, the subtle roll of the ocean, demanded immense steadiness and patience to achieve an accurate reading. This was a quiet, almost meditative act of scientific observation, performed night after quiet night, a continuous conversation with the vast, glittering cosmos, slowly revealing the ship's precise latitude. Measuring longitude was an even greater challenge in the pirate era, often relying on dead reckoning and the estimation of speed and direction. Imagine the navigator poring over a large, vellum chart in the dim, flickering light of a ship's lantern in his cabin. The chart, its surface covered with intricate lines of latitude and longitude, with hand-drawn coastlines and sketched hazards, would be a precious, meticulously guarded possession. He would carefully plot the ship's estimated course since the last known position, using a pair of brass dividers and a ruler. The rhythmic scratch of his quill pen on the parchment, the soft rustle of the chart, the gentle creak of the ship, these would be the sounds of his meticulous calculations. This was a process filled with potential error, requiring immense experience and a profound understanding of ocean currents, wind patterns, and the subtle inaccuracies of a compass. Each day's position was an educated guess, a continuous quiet estimation of their progress across an immense featureless blue. The ship's compass was another vital, yet often imprecise, navigational tool. Imagine the ship's helmsman, a skilled sailor, standing at the helm, his hands gripping the large wooden spokes of the ship's wheel. His gaze is fixed on the compass card, its delicate needle silently pointing north. The sounds would be the soft creak of the wheel, the gentle murmur of the waves, and the subtle, rhythmic adjustments of the rudder as he kept the ship on its designated course. However, compasses of the pirate era were often susceptible to magnetic deviation, influenced by the iron in the ship's fittings or by localized magnetic anomalies. This meant that the helmsman and navigator had to maintain a constant, quiet vigilance, making subtle mental adjustments, relying on their experience and intuition to discern the true bearing. The unwavering focus required for hours on end, keeping the ship steady against the unpredictable forces of the ocean, was a testament to quiet discipline and persistent concentration. Understanding the subtle language of the wind and the ocean currents was as crucial as any instrument. Imagine a seasoned pirate, perhaps a first mate or a bosun, standing on the main deck, his eyes scanning the vast expanse of the sails, noting their subtle tension, their gentle billow. He would feel the direction and strength of the wind on his face, taste the salt in the air, and observe the patterns of the waves. The sounds would be the ceaseless whisper of the wind through the rigging, the rhythmic flap of sails, and the constant, reassuring creak of the ship's timbers. This was a form of intuitive navigation, an ancient wisdom passed down through generations of sailors. A profound, quiet understanding of the natural world. He would listen to the wind's subtle changes, feeling its shifts, discerning its hidden messages, guiding the crew and adjusting the sails with precise, rhythmic movements. The daily logging of the ship's progress was a meticulous, repetitive chore, typically performed by the ship's scribe or illiterate officer. Imagine them seated in a small private cabin or at a sheltered desk on deck, meticulously recording details in the ship's logbook. Each entry would document the ship's course, its estimated speed, the distance covered, the prevailing weather conditions, and any significant events encountered. The soft scratch of the quill pen on coarse parchment, the gentle rustle of pages, the methodical recording of numbers and observations, these were the sounds of this important administrative task. This slow, deliberate record-keeping was vital for long voyages, allowing the captain and navigator to track their progress, to learn from past journeys, and to make informed decisions about future courses. The quiet diligence of this task, performed day after day, week after week, contributed to a profound sense of order and accountability on the ship. Exploration itself, for pirates, often involved long periods of monotonous sailing, punctuated by brief, intense moments of discovery or conflict. Imagine weeks of simply sailing across an immense, featureless ocean, the horizon stretching endlessly in every direction. The sounds would be the same rhythmic lapping of waves, the same creak of timbers, the same whisper of wind. There would be little to break the visual monotony of the vast, blue expanse. Your mind might drift into a semi-meditative state, observing the slow movement of clouds, the distant flight of seabirds, or the subtle dance of sunlight on the waves. This profound isolation and the sheer boredom of long voyages were immense psychological challenges, testing the endurance of every man. Yet, this very monotony also sharpened the senses, making any distant sighting, a cloud, a bird, or, most importantly, the faint outline of land an event of profound significance, demanding immediate, focused attention. When land was finally sighted, often after weeks or months at sea, it was a moment of immense, quiet relief and intense focus. Imagine the lookout, positioned high in the crow's nest, his eyes straining against the glare of the sun, suddenly spotting a faint, dark smudge on the distant horizon. His voice, clear and sharp, would break the monotony of the watch. Land ho! The sounds would be a sudden, quiet stir among the crew, a murmur of excitement, quickly subdued as the ship slowly, deliberately, changed course towards the distant shore. The air would begin to carry new scents, the earthy aroma of vegetation, the sweet fragrance of blossoms, a profound contrast to the pervasive smell of salt and sea. The sight of towering trees, of sandy beaches, of distant mountains slowly emerging from the haze, would fill the crew with a deep sense of quiet anticipation. This was not merely the end of a journey, it was the promise of fresh water, fresh food, and potential new adventures. Anchoring in a secluded cove or an uncharted bay was a carefully orchestrated, yet rhythmic maneuver. Imagine the ship slowly, deliberately, approaching the shore, its sails carefully furled. The sounds would be the gentle splash of the anchor being deployed, its heavy chain rattling rhythmically as it descended into the water, and the quiet commands of the captain or first mate guiding the crew in their tasks. The ship would then settle into the calm waters of the bay, its hull gently swaying with the subtle currents. The sounds of the shore, the gentle rustle of leaves, the distant calls of unseen birds, the soft lapping of water would replace the ceaseless roar of the open ocean, creating an atmosphere of profound tranquility. This was a moment of quiet respite, a temporary sanctuary from the relentless demands of the sea, allowing the crew to recover, to replenish supplies, and to quietly plan their next move. The pervasive, underlying threat of storms and unpredictable weather was a constant companion to the pirate navigator, even during calm seas. Imagine the subtle, yet deeply unsettling, changes in the sky. The slow, gradual darkening of the horizon, the appearance of ominous clouds, the sudden, gentle shift in the wind's direction. The sounds would be the soft, rhythmic flap of sails as they were quickly furled, the urgent, yet calm, commands of the officers, the creak of ropes as the rigging was secured. When a storm broke, the sounds would become overwhelming. The furious roar of the wind, the deafening crash of towering waves against the hull, the violent creak and groan of the ship's timbers, the rhythmic slosh of water washing over the deck. This was a brutal, terrifying experience, demanding immense physical effort from every man on board, battling against the overwhelming, indifferent power of nature. Yet, even in this chaos, the navigator had to maintain a quiet, unwavering focus, constantly plotting the ship's position, assessing the damage, and guiding the crew through the maelstrom. The long-term impact of these navigational challenges and the constant exploration profoundly shaped the pirates' understanding of the world. They developed an intimate, unparalleled knowledge of coastlines, of currents, of weather patterns, and of distant lands, often far surpassing that of official cartographers. Their mental maps of the world were vast, detailed, and constantly updated by direct, lived experience. This constant engagement with the unknown, this reliance on observation and intuition, fostered a unique sense of adaptability and self-reliance. It was a life lived at the edge of the known world, where every horizon held the promise of both danger and discovery. The quiet, enduring challenge of navigating the vast, indifferent ocean, with its unpredictable storms, and its profound isolation fostered a unique sense of quiet determination and an unwavering connection to the natural world. The reliance on the stars, the wind, and the currents, rather than on elaborate technologies, cultivated a deep, intuitive understanding of the sea. This deep, unchanging rhythm, this quiet harmony amidst nature's challenges, will now gently guide your own mind towards a profound and dream-filled sleep, a peaceful surrender to the ancient, eternal patterns of maritime existence. Having deeply immersed ourselves in the stark, unyielding realities of a pirate's daily life, feeling the persistent grime on their skin, sensing the pervasive odors of salt and unwashed garments, and understanding the profound physical demands of their repetitive, yet essential, toil aboard a cramped, swaying vessel, and having then contemplated the unique and often brutal system of justice that ruled the pirate ship itself, and explored the silent, meticulous world of navigation and exploration, let us now, slowly and with a profound shift in perspective, turn our gaze. We are about to step into a vastly different, yet equally disciplined and profoundly tranquil realm within the same ancient civilization. The social life, leisure, and forms of entertainment that characterized a pirate crew both at sea and during their brief, often riotous, but also remarkably routine stops in port. This is a narrative that seeks to transcend romanticized notions of endless carousing and wild parties, delving instead into the harsh, often unyielding, yet deeply repetitive and surprisingly uniform protocols that governed even their moments of relaxation. It was a world where immense camaraderie intersected with profound personal constraint, creating unique and pervasive psychological challenges that would profoundly test the very sensibilities of a modern individual, even amidst such periods of apparent revelry. Imagine, for a long quiet moment, an evening aboard a pirate ship, far from the chaotic clash of battle or the thrill of a chase. The sun has long since set, painting the western sky with lingering hues of deep purple and soft fading orange. The ship itself has settled into its nocturnal rhythm, gently swaying with the vast, indifferent ocean. The sounds are predominantly natural, the ceaseless lapping of waves against the wooden hull, the gentle creak of ship timbers as the vessel responds to the ocean's rhythm, the soft flap of sails in the steady breeze, and the distant, muffled cries of nocturnal seabirds circling high above. In this seemingly boundless setting, far from any land, the need for social interaction and simple forms of leisure was paramount, a crucial element for maintaining morale and fostering camaraderie among the hardened crew. This was not about grand, elaborate entertainment, but about simple, repetitive, and often communal pastimes that helped to pass the long, monotonous hours at sea. One of the most common forms of entertainment and social interaction aboard a pirate ship was storytelling. Imagine a group of pirates, perhaps huddled together on the lower deck, or gathered around a small, flickering lantern on the main deck during a calm night watch. The air is cool, salty, carrying the scent of damp wood and distant sea. The sounds are minimal, the gentle creak of the ship, the soft murmur of the waves, and the rhythmic, steady breathing of the listening crew. One pirate, perhaps an older, more experienced sailor, would begin to recount a tale of previous adventure, a daring escape, a ghost story of the sea, or a tall tale from a distant port. His voice, gruff yet compelling, would fill the quiet space, his words painting vivid pictures in the minds of his listeners. The sounds would be the low murmur of approval from the crew, the occasional soft chuckle, or the gentle sigh of collective attention. This was a quiet, shared experience, a way to pass the long hours, to entertain, and to reinforce the shared culture and lore of the pirate crew. The repetitive nature of storytelling, the familiar rhythm of narrative, could be profoundly soothing, allowing minds to drift into imagined worlds. Singing was another integral part of pirate social life, especially the communal singing of sea shanties. These were not merely songs for entertainment, they were functional work songs, their rhythmic melodies synchronized with specific shipboard tasks, making arduous labor more bearable and efficient. Imagine a group of pirates, perhaps hauling heavy ropes to raise a sail, or working at the capstan two-way anchor. One pirate would lead with a strong, clear voice, singing the verses of a sea shanty, and the rest of the crew would join in the rhythmic chorus. The sounds would be powerful, the strong, unified voices of the crew, the rhythmic pull and release of ropes, the creak of ship timbers. But even in moments of leisure, these songs provided a communal bonding experience. Imagine a quiet evening, with a pirate playing a simple fiddle or a flute, its melancholic melody drifting softly across the deck, while others joined in a low, harmonious chorus of a familiar shanty. The rhythmic, repetitive nature of these songs, their familiar melodies, could be profoundly soothing, bringing a sense of shared identity and quiet comfort amidst the vast, indifferent ocean. Card games and dice were also popular forms of leisure, providing a quiet distraction from the monotony of daily chores and the anxieties of future encounters. Imagine a group of pirates, perhaps huddled around a small crude table in the dimly lit lower deck, their faces illuminated by the flickering glow of a single lantern. The sounds would be soft, the gentle shuffle of worn playing cards, the rhythmic click-clack of dice being rolled, the low murmur of whispered bets, and the occasional soft chuckle of a winner or the quiet sigh of a loser. These were simple, repetitive games, requiring focus and a bit of luck, consuming long hours and providing a welcome mental escape from the endless physical demands of shipboard life. The air would be thick with the scent of stale rum, of unwashed bodies, and of the unique aroma of old cards. This quiet, contained gambling, while sometimes leading to disputes, was primarily a form of structured leisure, a predictable rhythm in an unpredictable world. Alcohol, particularly rum, played a central and complex role in pirates' social life. It was not just a drink, it was a ration, a comfort, a social lubricant, and sometimes a source of profound problems. Imagine the daily distribution of the grog ration, a communal ritual where each pirate received his allotted portion of diluted rum. The sounds would be the gentle clinking of pewter tankards, the soft gurgle of rum being poured, and the low murmur of appreciation from the crew. In moments of leisure, especially in the evenings, pirates would gather to consume their rations, engaging in quiet conversation, telling stories, or simply staring out at the vast, dark ocean. The sounds would be soft, the rhythmic clinking of tankards, the low hum of conversation, the distant creak of the ship. This communal drinking, while offering temporary respite from the hardships of life at sea, was also a double-edged sword, occasionally leading to arguments or brawls. which were then swiftly dealt with under the strictures of the pirate code. Yet for many, the gentle, numbing warmth of the rum provided a temporary escape from the monotony and anxiety, guiding their minds towards a tranquil, if fleeting, sleep. When a pirate ship finally made landfall in a friendly port, a rare and always highly anticipated event, the social dynamics and forms of leisure would subtly but profoundly shift. Imagine the immense excitement, yet contained within the ship's discipline, as the faint outline of land appeared on the horizon after weeks or months at sea. The sounds would be a quiet stir among the crew, a murmur of anticipation, slowly building into a more pronounced hum of activity as the ship prepared for docking. Upon disembarking, the sensory experience of land would be overwhelming yet profoundly welcome. The solid feel of stable ground beneath their feet, the complex aromas of land, fresh earth, cooking, food, bustling markets, distant flowers, and the cacophony of a vibrant port city. The first destination for most pirates in port would be the taverns, the bustling social hubs where sailors from across the globe would gather. Imagine the sounds, the raucous laughter, the loud conversations in a multitude of languages, the rhythmic clinking of mugs, the lively music of fiddles and flutes, and the loud shouts of tavern keepers. This was a stark contrast to the quiet confinement of the ship, a release of pent-up energy and emotions. Pirates would drink, gamble, and engage in boisterous conversations, sharing tales of their voyages, bragging about their exploits, and seeking news from other parts of the world. The air would be thick with the smell of stale beer, pipe, tobacco, and sweat, mixing with the sharp aroma of cheap rum. These were moments of intense, overwhelming social interaction, a stark yet welcome break from the monotony of the sea. However, even in port, the rhythm of a pirate's life was dictated by an underlying structure and discipline. The pirate code often included rules about behavior in port, forbidding certain actions or dictating a return time to the ship. Imagine the designated officer, perhaps the quartermaster, moving through the bustling taverns at a specific hour, his presence a quiet, authoritative signal that it was time to return. The sounds would be a gradual diminishing of the raucous laughter, a slow settling of the noisy conversations, as pirates, reluctantly, yet obediently, made their way back to their ship. This quiet adherence to ship's law, even amidst moments of apparent freedom, underscored the pervasive discipline that governed their lives. Beyond the taverns, pirates would also seek other forms of leisure in port. They might visit market stalls, purchasing fresh fruits, vegetables, and other luxuries unavailable at sea, savoring the diverse aromas and vibrant colors. Imagine the quiet satisfaction of eating a crisp apple, feeling its refreshing juiciness after months of salted provisions. They might seek out the company of women, or simply enjoy a quiet stroll along the bustling docks, observing the diverse array of ships and people. The sounds of the port, the creak of ropes, the shouts of longshoremen, the rhythmic clang of anchors, the distant music would blend into a rich, urban symphony, a welcome change from the monotonous sounds of the open ocean. These moments of quiet observation, of simply experiencing the richness of land-based life, provided a different kind of solace. The profound sense of camaraderie among the pirate crew, forged through shared dangers, mutual reliance, and communal living, was perhaps the most crucial aspect of their social life. Imagine the quiet, unspoken understanding between shipmates, the shared glances, the knowing nods that communicated more than words. This was a bond born of necessity, of enduring hardship together, of facing down death on countless occasions. In a world where trust was a precious commodity, the loyalty within a pirate crew was often absolute. This deep, pervasive sense of camaraderie provided a vital emotional support system, a quiet comfort that countered the profound isolation of life at sea. The sounds of their shared laughter, their hushed conversations, their collective efforts, all contributed to a profound sense of belonging, a quiet strength that underpinned their existence. The long-term impact of these social rhythms and forms of leisure profoundly shaped the pirate-esque character and worldview. They developed a unique appreciation for freedom, for camaraderie, and for simple pleasures. Born from the stark contrast of their harsh, confined existence at sea, the experiences of communal joy, of shared storytelling, of rhythmic music, and of the simple solace of alcohol, all provided essential release from the pressures of their dangerous profession. This profound understanding of human connection, this ability to find comfort and solace in the most basic of interactions, contributed to their resilience and their ability to endure. As night finally descended upon a bustling pirate port, or settled over a ship far out at sea, a different kind of profound quietude would begin to envelop it. The boisterous sounds of the taverns would gradually fade. The cries of the market vendors would cease. The rhythmic clatter of activity on the docks would fall silent. Instead, you would hear the soft, rhythmic lapping of water against distant hulls, perhaps the distant, muffled calls of nocturnal seabirds, or the gentle, rhythmic breathing of sleeping crewmates below deck. This was the deep, restorative sleep earned through a day of relentless chores, disciplined watches, intense social interaction, or boisterous revelry. It was a profound rest that prepared the mind and body for the similar, unhurried rhythms of the coming dawn, knowing that tomorrow, the sun would rise again, and the endless, silent, demanding routines of pirate life, with all its pungent realities, repetitive demands, and profound social bonds, would simply, quietly, continue guiding them, through sheer weariness and continuous resilience, towards a deep, restorative sleep, a peaceful surrender to the ancient, eternal patterns of maritime existence.